She slept on the floor with Mafia Millionaire's shivering son. What he did next changed her life. On a November night, the city felt so cold it seemed as if the air itself had frozen solid. Elena Cruz hurried along the sidewalk, her nurse's scrub still carrying the sharp scent of antiseptic and blood, her worn sneakers squeaking after a 12-hour shift. She had hoped to catch the last train, but that hope shattered as she watched the final carriage lights vanish around the curve, leaving her stranded in the deserted station. Her phone had died 3 blocks ago. Her wallet carried nothing but a debit card with less than $20, useless for a taxi, laughable for a motel room. She thought about calling her roommate, but after last week's fight about unpaid rent, Elena knew the door wouldn't open for her at 1 in the morning. The night pressed in with a brutal chill. The wind cut through her thin jacket as if it were made of paper, slicing straight into her bones. The city, usually alive with noise and light, was silent now. Every cafe shuttered, every street cloaked in darkness. Loneliness throbbed louder than the cold in her chest. She considered walking home, but 4 hours on foot through neighborhoods that often made the news for the worst reasons, robberies, disappearances, worse, wasn't safe. Elena drew a sharp breath, scanning for shelter, for any place to hide until morning. And then she saw it. An old warehouse crouched between 2 abandoned buildings, its steel roll-up door bent and hanging open. Elena had passed it countless times on her way to the hospital, but she had never imagined stepping inside. Tonight, it appeared like a dark miracle, damp, rusted, and dangerous, but at least 4 walls against the wind. She slipped through the gap. The smell of iron and stale rain filled her nose. Moonlight leaked through shattered windows above, spilling pale silver squares across the concrete floor. Elena moved deeper inside, settling behind a stack of wooden crates, hugging her backpack to her chest. "Just a few hours," she whispered to herself. "Wait for the morning train, and everything will be fine." But before her eyes could close, she heard it. A sound, small, broken, fragile, like a kitten left to die. Her body went rigid, heart hammering so hard it ached. Every crime story she'd ever overheard screamed in her mind. Late night, abandoned warehouse, strange noises. Every instinct told her, don't investigate. And yet, the sound came again. Not an animal. Human. A muffled sob, fractured by the dark. Elena clutched her backpack tighter, then rose to her feet, her steps slow and cautious as she followed the sound into the shadows. Elena stepped deeper into the warehouse, each footstep echoing like a drumbeat in the silence. The floor was littered with broken bricks, torn cardboard boxes, and damp rotting wood. The faint sound she had heard earlier rose again, clearer this time. Not just a random noise, but a muffled cry. She held her breath and followed the pale shaft of moonlight filtering through the shattered window pane. Behind a row of soaked cartons, she saw it. A boy. He looked about 7, frail and curled so tightly into himself that he seemed only half a body. The shoulder of his expensive shirt was torn, his bare feet caked with dirt. His face was pale, his hair tangled, and his eyes remained shut in feverish weakness. His small body trembled as though he were lying outside in the snow. Elena's heart clenched. "Oh my God," she whispered. The boy jolted awake, eyes wide in panic. He backed against the wall, hands shielding his face, his breathing sharp and frantic like a trapped animal. Elena raised both hands slowly, lowering her voice, trying to make herself harmless. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." His dark eyes, wet with tears, fixed on her. In them was a fear far too old for such a young child. Elena realized at once this was not ordinary fear. This was the fear of a child who had been threatened, abandoned, left to survive alone. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" she asked softly. No answer, only the tight press of his lips and that guarded stare. Elena hesitated, then introduced herself. "My name is Elena. I'm just a nurse. I missed my train tonight and ended up sheltering here." "And you? Are you stuck here too?" The boy neither nodded nor shook his head, but a moment later he gave the faintest tilt of his head downward, a fragile sign of acknowledgement. Elena felt the weight of that tiny gesture, her heart sinking further. Questions crowded her mind. Why was a boy in expensive clothes lying feverish and barefoot in an abandoned warehouse? Who had left him here? His lips quivered, his teeth chattered, his whole body pale with cold. Elena stopped thinking. She slipped off her thin coat, the only shield she had against the chill, and draped it gently over his shoulders. He flinched but didn't retreat. His eyes stayed wary but less frantic. Elena sat down beside him, leaving a safe distance. "I'll stay with you until morning. You don't have to be alone." The boy clutched the coat tightly around himself. He said nothing, but his breathing began to ease. Elena leaned against a wooden crate, her bones aching with the cold, and softly hummed an old lullaby her grandmother once sang about stars, safe harbors, and faraway ships. At first, the boy only watched her, suspicion lingering in his gaze. But slowly, he inched closer. His small head rested against her shoulder. A thin, bony hand gripped her sleeve with surprising strength. Elena froze, then exhaled quietly. She dared not move, afraid of breaking the fragile trust of the moment. "You're safe now," she whispered. "I'm here." The boy didn't reply, but his hot, feverish breathing grew calmer. Soon, his eyes slid shut. Sleep took him at last, cradled against Elena, as though for one fleeting night all his fears had been chased away by the fragile warmth of her presence in the cold, forsaken dark. Dawn was beginning to pale. Through the shattered windows of the warehouse, a cold gray light filtered in. Elena sat with her back against a pile of rotting wood, her body stiff from the cold, but the little boy was still asleep, his head resting on her shoulder, his small hand clutching tightly at her sleeve, as if afraid to lose the last lifeline he had. Elena rubbed her eyes gently. She thought perhaps she had made it through the long night. Just a few more hours, and the morning would fully break, and the early train would take her home. But then she heard it. Engines, not one, but many. The screech of tires biting into wet pavement, then stopping all at once right outside the warehouse door. Elena's heart clenched. The boy on her shoulder whimpered softly, stirring in his sleep. "It's okay. It's okay," Elena whispered, though her voice trembled. The warehouse's metal door burst open with a thunderous crash. Headlights from the vehicles cut into the darkness inside, accompanied by the pounding of heavy footsteps. Men in black clothes, guns in hand, swarmed inside. 6, 8, no, at least 10 of them. Elena froze, trembling as she shielded the boy with her body, one thought blazing in her mind. Am I going to die like this? "Don't move," a deep, cold voice commanded, the muzzle of a gun leveled straight at her head. Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't move. And then another man stepped inside, different from the rest. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, his face stern, his dark eyes carrying a fire that seemed to burn everything in their path. He didn't need a weapon. His very presence radiated absolute power. Those eyes swept across the warehouse, then stopped where Elena sat. No, not at Elena, at the boy trembling in her arms. "Nico." The man's voice cracked as he spoke the name. The boy trembled as he lifted his head. The man, Gabriel Romano, froze. Relief, anger, and a flash of pain swept across his face. Then he lunged forward. Elena instinctively tightened her hold on the boy. "Don't hurt him, please. He's just a child." Gabriel Romano stopped. His eyes met Elena's for the first time. cold, searching, as if he wanted to tear through her soul to find the answer. "I won't hurt him." His voice was deep and hoarse. "He is my son." Those words struck Elena like a bucket of ice water. She looked down at Nico, his tear-filled eyes stumbling toward the man. Gabriel bent down, scooped up his son, lifting him as if he weighed nothing. His hand cupped the back of the boy's head with a tenderness that stood in stark contrast to the violent atmosphere around them. "You protected him." Gabriel looked at Elena, this time his tone not a question, but a statement. Elena only nodded, speechless. His jaw tightened, his gaze sliding over the bare feet, the torn clothes, the thin coat wrapped around the boy. When he looked up again, his eyes gleamed with a dangerous light that made Elena shudder. "What is your name?" "Elena," she stammered. "Elena Cruz." "Elena Cruz." He repeated it slowly, as if engraving each syllable. "You stayed with him the whole night." I couldn't leave him." A brief silence. Then Gabriel turned to his subordinate. "Prepare the car." Finally, his eyes returned to Elena, still trembling on the cold cement floor. "You're coming with us." He spoke not as a command, nor as a request. It was a truth that could not be denied. Elena had never imagined she would set foot inside a car more luxurious than the tiny apartment she rented. Yet minutes later, she was seated on soft leather seats, classical music drifting from hidden speakers, and she knew her world had just changed forever. The car glided through misty streets, its wheels whispering like velvet on stone. Elena sat rigid, hands clasped tightly in her lap, fully aware that a single nod from the man beside her could erase her existence. Gabriel Romano said nothing during the ride. He held Nico in his arms, adjusting the blanket around his son now and then, his gaze fixed on each fragile breath as though the boy might vanish if he dared to blink. Elena stole a glance. His face was stern, sculpted in sharp lines, his eyes dark as burned honey. A man who radiated both nobility and danger. She didn't need anyone to tell her. This was a man who could destroy an entire city with one phone call. When the car stopped, Elena froze. Before her rose a mansion straight out of an architectural magazine, towering iron gates, manicured gardens, fountains gleaming beneath the dawn. She whispered under her breath, "Oh my God." Gabriel's eyes flicked toward her, his lips twitching. Not a smile, but a reminder. "You've entered my world, and there is no way back." Inside the grand hall, staff lined up in tense silence. A woman in a white coat rushed forward as soon as Nico was carried inside. But when she tried to separate him for an exam, Nico panicked, crying out, his small arms reaching desperately toward Elena. "No, don't leave me." The words burst out, raw, the first Elena had heard him speak since the warehouse. The room stilled. Elena hesitated, then stepped forward, gathering him into her arms. Nico buried his face against her shoulder, his breathing gradually calming. "I'm here," Elena whispered comfortingly. "I'm right here." Gabriel watched, his expression dark, unreadable. He gestured for the doctor to step back. Then he spoke, slow and deep. "He trusts you." Elena swallowed. "I just stayed with him." "No, more than that." He stepped closer, the air tightening between them. "He's been silent for 4 months since the day his mother died. Last night he called for me, and now he calls for you. Elena, you've done what no therapist could." Elena held Nico tighter, words failing her. Gabriel's gaze lingered, then he said something that stunned her to her core. "Stay. Care for him. Help him heal. I'll pay you $50,000 a month." Elena blinked. "What?" "You heard me." His eyes never left his son. 50,000. A home, security, everything you need. All I ask is that you stay with him." She shook her head, horrified. "I'm not a nanny. I'm not a specialist. I'm just a night shift nurse." "You're the only one he opens up to. I don't care about credentials. I care about results." The silence between them grew heavy, suffocating. Elena felt trapped in a bargain she hadn't chosen. Her mind flashed to her cramped apartment, the pitiful balance in her bank account, the unpaid medical bills piling higher each month. Then she felt Nico's grip tighten, his trembling body clinging to her like she might disappear. Elena closed her eyes, drawing a deep breath. "1 month," she whispered. "I'll stay 1 month." Gabriel Romano inclined his head. 1 month. The room given to Elena was larger than her entire old apartment. High ceilings, glass windows overlooking manicured gardens, a bed so soft it felt like sinking into clouds. But Elena couldn't relax. All that luxury felt less like comfort and more like a gilded cage. In the first days, she moved cautiously through the mansion, constantly aware of watchful eyes. Servants, guards, cameras, reminders that she did not belong to this world. And yet, whenever she stepped into Nico's room, the weight lifted. His room looked like a miniature castle, sea-blue walls, shelves lined with comics and toys. But beneath the perfection, Elena sensed emptiness, like a space designed for a child, not for healing a broken heart. Nico hardly left her side. He trailed her from the garden to the veranda, from meals to bedtime. At first he stayed silent, eyes still shadowed by fear. But Elena never pushed. She sat with him on the floor, pulling out crayons, drawing simple shapes. "Do you want to try?" she asked, offering a crayon. Nico studied her for a long moment. Then, cautiously, he took it. His lines wavered across the page, a small house with a red roof, 2 figures drawn close together. "Who's this?" Elena asked softly. "Me and Mama." His voice was faint, but clear. Elena froze. It was the first full sentence he had spoken to her. She smiled, her throat tight. "It's beautiful. You miss her, don't you?" Nico nodded, eyes shining. Elena laid a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Missing someone you love is normal. You're very brave to say it out loud." "Mama used to sing to me." Nico's voice was so small, Elena almost didn't hear it. Her heart clenched. "What song did she sing?" "The one about the stars. She said she'd be up there, always watching me." Elena bit her lip hard, holding back tears. "Your mama was right, and I'm sure she's very proud of you." "I got lost. They pulled me from the car. They said if I screamed, they'd hurt Papa. So I stayed quiet. I was good." Elena held him tighter, her heart breaking. "You were so smart, so brave." "They left me in a place so dark, so cold. I thought no one would ever find me." "But I found you," Elena said firmly, her voice trembling but resolute. "And now you're safe. Your Papa is here. I'm here. No one is abandoning you." "Don't go. Please don't go. Everyone leaves me." Those pleas cut through Elena like knives. This child had lost his mother, been kidnapped, abandoned in the night, and now he was terrified of losing even the faint light he'd just found. "I'm not going anywhere," Elena promised, though she herself didn't know if she could keep that promise. The door creaked open. Gabriel stood there, frozen. He had heard everything. His face was carved with rage and pain. Rage at the monsters who had hurt his son, pain that his child had endured so much. Nico looked up, whispering, "Papa." Gabriel rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside the bed, pulling his son into his arms. "Papa's here, my boy." "I was afraid to talk. The bad men said—" "They're gone." Gabriel's voice was hoarse. "They will never touch you again. Papa promises." "How can you be sure, Papa?" His jaw tightened. "Because Papa found them first." The weight of those words was sharp as a blade. Elena should have shivered. Maybe she did. But watching the father clutch his trembling son, she had no room left for judgment. Nico reached out, one hand gripping his father's, the other still holding tightly onto Elena. Elena stays. Gabriel looked at her over his son's shoulder, silence stretching taut like a fragile thread. Then he gave a small nod. Elena will stay. A fragile smile broke across Nico's face, a weak but genuine smile, like the first light of dawn after a long, stormy night. From that day, the wall between them began to crumble. Elena told Nico stories of her own childhood, of the nights she was afraid when her father left. She sang him to sleep with old lullabies. He began to whisper in return about his fear of the dark, about nightmares that woke him at 2 a.m. Each time, Elena sat by his bed, holding his hand. "I'm here. You're safe." Slowly, he started to believe it. Gabriel watched from the shadows. Passing by the hall, he lingered outside the door, seeing his son laugh softly beside Elena. That laugh, the sound that had been gone for months, made something flicker in his otherwise cold eyes. Elena noticed Gabriel's quiet attention too. At rare dinners they shared, his gaze always lingered on his son, then flickered briefly toward her, as if searching for the reason Nico had opened up. She didn't know what to call this bond. But within the cold vastness of the mansion, Elena and Nico had begun to build a small corner of warmth, a fragile but genuine piece of family. 3 weeks had passed in a strange rhythm. Mornings, Elena read with Nico in the garden. Afternoons, they drew and played in the sun. Evenings, she sang him to sleep. She grew used to the plainclothes guards scattered through the grounds, the small cameras hidden in corners. But that fragile peace shattered on a winter night. Elena was with Nico in the study when suddenly every light went out. Power failure. In an instant, the mansion plunged into thick darkness. Alarms wailed, red emergency lights flashed overhead. Elena's heart jolted as she pulled Nico close, the boy trembling violently. "What's happening?" she gasped to the guard bursting through the door. "Lockdown! We're under attack!" he barked, shoving them into the hall. Nico sobbed, his eyes wide with terror. "The bad men? They're back!" Elena clutched him tighter, whispering, "It's okay, I'm here." But her own fear gnawed at her ribs. Gunfire cracked in the distance, bursts and bursts, like fireworks in the night. Guards herded them through long corridors, footsteps pounding, shouts echoing. Elena had never felt death so close. At last they were shoved into a hidden room behind a bookshelf. Steel doors slid shut with a hydraulic hiss. A panic room. "Stay here. Only open for me or Mr. Romano," the guard ordered, before disappearing. Elena held Nico, eyes darting to the monitors showing every corner of the mansion. Black-clad intruders moved through the halls, guns raised. It looked like a nightmare. Nico wept against her shoulder, whispering, "Papa, Papa will die like Mama." Elena turned him, her voice firm. "Listen to me. Your papa is the scariest man those bad guys have ever faced. He won't fall." The boy searched her tear-streaked face. Elena knew she had promised something she couldn't be sure of. But she had to. On the screens, Gabriel appeared. He moved like a storm, weapon in hand, dropping intruders with ruthless precision. Elena felt horror and relief collide. This man was a force of nature, born to protect. Then her breath caught. Another figure, swifter, had slipped into the east wing, heading straight for the panic room. Elena's blood ran cold. The man stopped before the bookshelf, probing. Too smart. He found the mechanism. The steel door began to whine open. Elena's heart pounded. Seconds left. No gun. No escape. She grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, planting herself in front of Nico. "Stay behind me. Don't move." The door burst open. The intruder lunged in, gun leveled at her chest. Elena screamed, swinging the extinguisher with all her strength. The heavy metal struck his skull. He staggered, but his finger tightened on the trigger. A blur, a crack. Gabriel was there, swift, precise, merciless. He disarmed, struck, and dropped the man in seconds. Elena trembled, unable to breathe. Gabriel turned, storm still in his eyes. His hand gripped her shoulder. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, choking out, We're okay." Nico threw himself into his father's arms, sobbing. Gabriel held him close, but his gaze never left Elena. And in those eyes, for the first time, she saw something beyond power and danger, a flicker of respect. After the attack, the Romano estate turned into a fortress. Guards patrolled every hall, iron gates locked tight, black SUVs circling day and night. Elena saw it clearly. This world wasn't just dangerous. It was a battlefield. Nico clung to her more than ever. Nightmares came nightly, but each time he woke to find Elena still there, he settled again. Gabriel changed too. He checked on his son more often, but his eyes carried a restrained fury, like a volcano waiting to erupt. Then, one afternoon, while Elena played with Nico in the garden, Marcus, the head of security, approached. "Someone wants to see you," he said. His tone wasn't casual. It was a warning. In a private sitting room, a woman waited. A long coat, eyes sharp with the cold steel of someone used to cutting through lies. She introduced herself. "Detective Harper." Elena froze. "We've tracked Romano for years. Money laundering, extortion, murder. The list is longer than you can imagine." Harper dropped a thick file on the table. "But this isn't about him. It's about you." "Me?" Elena's voice trembled. "You've been here nearly a month. You've seen things we've never reached, and you've become his only weakness." Elena's hands tightened. "I'm just caring for a child." Harper leaned forward. "A child living in the mansion of the most dangerous man in this city. Do you think you can protect him? Romano isn't immortal. One day he will fall, and Nico will become a prize for his enemies." Elena bit her lip, silent. The detective pulled a card from her coat. "We want you to cooperate. Help us collect evidence from inside. In return, you'll gain emergency custody of the boy, legal protection, a new identity, safety. You have 48 hours to decide." Elena took the card, her thoughts in chaos. Harper left, trailing the acrid scent of cigarettes and silence in her wake. Marcus stood outside the door. His gaze was grave. "Be careful with your choice. Living near Romano means you'll burn eventually." That night, Elena found Gabriel in his office. He already knew, of course. Nothing ever slipped past him. "I won't betray you," she said as soon as she stepped in. Gabriel looked up, eyes dark as midnight. "I wouldn't blame you if you did. I know what I am, a criminal, a man with too many enemies. With me, you'll never be safe." Elena stepped closer. "You say that like I don't already know. I know you're dangerous, but I also know you're a father, and Nico needs you." Gabriel stilled, his expression cracking faintly. He turned away, voice low and hoarse. "You don't understand. My enemies will torture you, use you to destroy me. The police will play you like a pawn, and I could drag you down with me. Harper gave you a way out. Take it, before I care too much to let you go." Elena's heart lurched. She had never heard him speak like this. The man who terrified dozens was admitting he feared losing her. She stepped closer still. "Too late," she whispered. "I've already chosen." The air between them stretched tight, fragile as a snapped wire. Gabriel's eyes burned into hers. Then his phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered, his voice sharp as steel. "When? How many?" "I'll be there." At the door, he paused. "Stay inside. Trust no one but Marcus and Elena." She looked up. The door closed. Elena stood frozen, her heart pounding, knowing her life had crossed a line where peace no longer existed. At dawn, Elena found Gabriel in Nico's room. He sat in a chair beside the bed, his face hollow, his suit from the night before still clinging to him. Nico slept soundly, breathing evenly, but Gabriel was like stone, his eyes fixed on his son, filled with love and despair. "You didn't sleep at all?" Elena whispered. He didn't turn. His voice was raw. "They'll find evidence. The police will take me. It's only a matter of time." Elena's chest tightened. "And Nico?" Gabriel looked at her then, his eyes cutting straight through her. "He'll fall into the court's hands. A boy with a dead mother and a convicted father. He'll be swallowed by the system. Do you know what that system does to a child like him?" Elena fell silent. She knew too well. Stories of children lost in foster care, growing up with wounds that never healed. "There's only one way," Gabriel said, his tone steady now. "You? Elena, you're the only one he trusts, the only one he's spoken to by name." Her eyes widened. "You're asking me to betray you?" Gabriel nodded slightly. "I want you to contact Harper. Do exactly as she says. In exchange, secure custody for Nico. I'll confess. I'll take the fall. Just make sure he stays with you." Elena's throat closed, tears stinging her eyes. "Do you know what that means? You'll go to prison, maybe forever." "I deserve it." For the first time, his voice carried unmasked sorrow. "I chose this bloody road, but he shouldn't pay the price. He deserves another life, a chance I can't give him." Elena trembled. "But Nico needs his father. If you disappear, he'll think you abandoned him." Gabriel rose, stepped closer, and laid a hand on her shoulder. "Then promise me this. Don't let him believe that. Tell him I chose him, that everything I did was for him." Elena broke, clutching his hand. "I can't do this." "You can, because you love him, and I trust you to do what I cannot. Give him a future." In that moment, Gabriel, the man who made the city tremble, was no Mafia lord. He was only a father, willing to sacrifice freedom itself so his son could live in peace. Elena lowered her head, tears falling. "If I agree, I have one condition. Nico must still see you. Letters, phone calls, visits, anything. You don't get to vanish from his life." A rare light flickered in Gabriel's eyes. Hope. He nodded. "Yes, I promise." They stood together in the early light, two people sealing a pact with their hearts. Elena knew this was the turning point, and neither of them could ever go back. Gabriel cast a glance toward Nico's bedroom door. "Make sure he sleeps well. I don't want him to see this." He turned and walked away. The street light stretched his shadow long across the floor, not the shadow of a crime lord, but of a father carrying the weight of love and loss. Elena wanted to call him back, but her throat tightened. No sound would come. She just stood there, watching until the sound of the car faded into the distance, leaving behind a hollow, icy emptiness. At dawn, the news spread across the city. Gabriel Romano, the infamous crime boss, had turned himself in. Elena switched off the TV, holding Nico close as the boy rubbed his eyes and asked, "Where's Papa?" Her heart ached, but she remembered the promise. She bent down and whispered, "Papa left to make things right, because Papa love you, always love you." 6 months passed. Elena's world had changed so much she sometimes didn't recognize herself. The small 2-bedroom apartment where she and Nico lived wasn't luxurious, but it brimmed with light, drawings, and laughter. The walls were plastered with crayon sketches, spaceships, dinosaurs, and family portraits Nico proudly taped up. One corner of the table held Elena's nursing textbooks, right beside half-built Lego models. On a spring afternoon, Elena pushed Nico on the swings at the park near their home. He laughed, dark hair flying in the sun. "Higher, Elena! Push me higher!" "If I push higher, you'll fly away," she laughed, pretending to hold him down. Nico's laughter rang across the playground. To Elena, It was the most precious sound in the world. Gabriel Romano now lived in a federal prison. He had taken the deal: confession, testimony to bring down his rivals in exchange for 15 years, eligible for parole in 8. The first visit had been hard. Nico clung to his father, asking why he couldn't come home. Gabriel knelt, looked straight into his son's eyes and said, "Papa made big mistakes. Now I have to make them right. But I'll always be your papa, and I'll never stop loving you." Since then, every Sunday, Elena brought Nico to visit. The boy carried drawings, told his father about school, about friends, about little things like his favorite ice cream. Gabriel listened as if every detail was treasure. Elena received letters, too. Not the words of a crime lord, but of a father and a man learning to live again. He wrote about classes he took, therapy sessions, dreams of a future free of shadows. One afternoon, while Nico played at the park, he suddenly asked, "Elena, do you think Papa is proud of me?" She knelt, brushing his hair back. "I know he is, because you're the bravest, most amazing boy I've ever met." "And you? Do you think he's proud of you?" The question caught her off guard. She smiled, eyes stinging. "Yes, because I saved both of you. But you're the reason he wants to change." Nico hugged her tightly. "You're our hero." Elena closed her eyes, tears slipping free. 6 months ago, she had been a nurse, stranded in the cold. Now she was a mother, a protector, the fragile bridge that kept a broken family from falling apart. Her phone buzzed. A text from Gabriel. "Thank you for the photos. He looks happy. You both do. I love you both. See you Sunday." Elena smiled, typing back, "We love you too. Nico wants to show you his science project." She looked up at the boy chasing butterflies in the sun. In that moment, Elena knew that though the road ahead was long, they had built something real. Not through blood or power, but through sacrifice, love, and a freezing night in a warehouse where she had chosen kindness over fear. That night, Elena had missed her train, but in the end, she had found a family. 8 years later, the gates of the federal prison creaked open, the metal groaning under the weight of time. The sky outside blazed with golden light, the sun sinking low. A man stepped out, his stride slower, his hair streaked with gray, his face etched with years that could never be erased. But his eyes, still the same eyes, no longer carried the darkness of before, only weariness and a hunger to live again. Gabriel Romano drew in a deep breath as if for the first time in years he was truly free. And then he saw them. Elena stood there in a simple dress, her face older, stronger, but her eyes still carrying that gentle light he had memorized all those years ago. Beside her stood a boy, no longer the fragile child who once trembled in a warehouse, but Nico, nearly grown, tall, his smile bright and unshaken. For a heartbeat, Gabriel thought his chest might burst. "Papa!" Nico shouted, sprinting forward. Without hesitation, he leapt into his father's arms, as if 8 years of separation had never existed. Gabriel held him tightly, tears streaming before he even noticed. The boy clung to him with all the strength of youth, then playfully climbed onto his father's shoulders, arms spread wide like a bird soaring into the golden sky. Elena walked closer. Gabriel looked at her, and for the first time in his life, he no longer felt like a criminal, but simply a man, a husband, a father. No words were needed. He extended his hand. Elena placed hers in his. His hand, rough and scarred, hers, warm and steady, fingers intertwined. Their shadows stretched long across the golden road, 3 souls once shattered, now stitched together by love, walking as one. From Gabriel's shoulders, Nico laughed aloud. "We're together again, a family." Elena tilted her face toward the burning sky, a soft smile curving her lips. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. But in this moment, under this endless gold, they had found something far more precious than freedom or power. They had found each other, and their story was only just beginning.